I'm taking a huge risk out here filming right now. Okay, so I was digging around in one of these old buildings in here and I found a newspaper that dates back to October 7th, 1916. What's really cool is it's got the Ford cars right here. It was the actual Goodsprings garage, which was a really big part of the history that I wanted to know about, just because I'm a real big Henry Ford buff and I love the Ford, you know, the old cars from the Model A's and the Model T's and, you know, the 30s. I'm just a big Model A guy, and so this was a big thing for me to see this. But it says right here, delivered to Goodsprings for $3.20, and I'm assuming that probably came from either Las Vegas or it came off the train out here, because back then you could buy a Roadster for $398.25. So think about that. You bought your family car for $398. Well, the Roadster really wasn't. That was the hot rod kind of Roadster, you know, style. But you could buy a touring car for $413.25. And what's crazy is you could buy it right here within 20 feet across the street of where my place is. So this is my place where the general store was. Across the street right here was the actual Ford garage where you could buy a brand new Ford back in 1910, 1920, 1916. This was active. So here in Goodsprings in 1916, this was a bigger town than Vegas was. It was pretty unbelievable. You know, we had a lot of shopping, a lot of stores. It was a pretty active little place, and I'll show you some of the stuff that I got there. But as it goes down through here, you know, you got a lot of different, you know, the laundry, Goodsprings Laundry. There was a family that ran the laundry place here, so you could come in and wash your clothes. All these miners would come in, and bedding and all the stuff, because there was really no way to really wash your clothes unless you had like an old we'll try to hold it. I don't want this paper to rip any more than it already. I'm taking a huge risk out here filming right now. Goodsprings Cafe. It had Bill's Place, Yellow Pine Mine Saloon. There was probably about, besides the Pioneer, and I got the Pioneer Saloon on here too, which is down the street, which is still here, very active. There was probably, I think, 6 or 7 other saloons just in this little town. So pretty damn amazing. But they do have a lot of articles in here about the mines and what was going on, and the Campbell's State mining properties, which are right across the street right here, and some of the other cool stuff that's out here. Anyway, I'm gonna try to get this paper put back in, and then I'll refer back to this in a minute. This is the main highway coming into Vegas. It's 161, or I mean coming into Goodsprings. It's Highway 161 right through here, and they call it Spring Street, but this street actually was pretty active back in the early 1900s. And you can see right here in this picture, as you can see right here, Goodsprings Garage. They got this old Model T right here. Now I know about 1904 they started taking the rubber, used to be white, and then car rubber, they put a compound in it to make it last longer and be stronger. They added the black to it, which makes your tires black now. But pre-1904, 1910, they were white. And so this old car right here, looking at the picture, is telling me that this car is early. And it may just not have had black rubber at the time, but I'm gonna say this car is probably, you know, 1910, 1912, somewhere in there. So I think at that point in time, a lot of the car rubber was still white, so it wasn't black yet. So to just try to date the picture in here, I'm gonna say that this was probably shot probably around 1915, 16. That's when everything was really active. But that's pretty cool. Like if you look at that building right there is not the building, but the building that was there was the Goodsprings Garage, which was literally across the street from my place right here. Pretty exciting. I would love to have that piece of ground one day, because I would put the Goodsprings Garage back up. That would be my wish. Now let's move up the street a little bit here. All right, it looks like this right here 1916 or 1917 is this picture right here. Store. This was the general store right here. Okay, and then you got these little buildings, which one of these was like a little, there was a little gas station right here on the corner. That might have been, actually that was the Goodsprings garage there, okay? This is a little canopy and a crawler right here. This would have been the little general store right here, which is this one right here, okay? Now, if you look at the mountains, I'm gonna try to hold it. I don't know if you're looking right, but this peak is that peak. This peak is that peak, and then it comes up the valley, and this is that mountain right there. So this picture literally is sitting right here. Whoever was here took this picture where we're standing in 1917 or 1916 and took this picture. And they had this crawler dozer, which was a steam engine. And this steam engine would pull all the ore out of down to Jean. It would probably take it down to Jean, which is 7 miles at like 2 miles an hour, all the way down there. But anyway, that was the ore that came out of probably the yellow pine or one of the loads. So anyway, cool picture, huh? I'm identifying these old pictures of the town, but that's so cool. I mean, we might be a little bit forward, but it's right in here. That picture was taken right in here. All right, so this picture right here was taken like right about where we're standing. It might be a little closer to in the middle of the road, but that cottonwood tree is still there. That old cottonwood. You got this old car, there was an old house right here, and then the Fail Hotel sat here. But as you can see right in the background is the Pioneer Saloon and the cafe, which is right there. You can zoom in from where we're standing. These old guys, probably in the had to be 1916 or 15, 12, somewhere in there. This picture was taken right here in the middle of the street, this cool old car. This little roadster, isn't that thing sweet looking? And then you can see the hill right there behind it where everybody climbs it now. That's just identifying the location, which is really cool. I love it. What a neat old car. And there's an old Dodge Brothers back there too. That was the cottonwood right there. There's the cafe, which you can see clearly the cafe and the Pioneer Saloon on that old picture. Bitchin'. All right, so I don't know if you can see this, but do you see this Model T truck pulling this house down the road right here? Who was just doing that the other day? I did. This picture's so cool because it's not the first time somebody loaded up a freaking gas station or a place and hauled it down the road right here. So instead of coming this way, I was going that way. This is the Fail Hotel. And it was amazing. I guess it was just gorgeous. It was huge. And now that sat right here. So this truck is probably right about where we're standing right now. This truck pulling that house on the back of that flatbed is about right here, and the Fail Hotel was right here. Dirt roads, you know, nothing was out here back then. But when I seen this picture, I didn't really notice that guy hauling that building on there at first. And I'm like, look at that. That guy's hauling the same guy. It looks just like my gas station. So this little house right here would have been on this corner where this dead tree is. And then all these were right here were like, I'm talking department stores, the Buckley and Buckley, which is a big clothing store down there. Anyway, this, believe it or not, from here all the way down to the Pioneer Saloon was it was a town. Like there was a lot going on. So this right here where we're standing, you could see that was that right here. This was up by the school. I know where this was at. We could locate the mountains, and I could probably show you that one too. But this is where they used to this is what people did back then. They'd get together on the weekends. They'd play baseball and have fun out here, you know, in the middle of town. This is pretty cool. This old Chevy truck sitting here is really bitching. And I mean, that guy loved his truck. Look how cool he is, just sitting there all cool. That was a cool old building. This is just a neat little picture. This was in front of the general store, which would have been right out here, right in front of the store. Look at this old car. It's an old Woody. This thing was Steve Fleming. This is Steve's family, probably in the 40s, the early 40s, mid 40s, because of the Woody car that's sitting here. And this is when they were all getting ready to go to to the Eldorado in Vegas. That's what he told me. This is when his family was getting ready to go to the Eldorado. This is really cool right here. This car is an old Woody, which you don't see a lot of these cars. This is a very rare car. It's really cool to see it in this picture. Badass little car. I'm saying it's a 30s, 37 Woody Ford. That's what that is right there, is what it looks like. All right, here's another little picture that I found that's part of the general store, which is here. These three old guys in their race cars. So there was a race apparently that went from Goodsprings to Vegas and then the dry lake bed. And they had race cars. You can see this guy's in a right-hand drive race car right there. This old Model T that's just all race. I don't know about this touring car. It probably, this Phaeton Ford right here. Looks like probably a 1927, 6 Ford. Anyway, this is right here. You can see there's the peak of the mountain there, here. You can see the contour in the mountains right up there. This was taken right here in the middle of the street. But they did have races here. My goal is to bring that back. I want pre-war cars out here, something that we can go race, stuff that's, you know, from the 1920s and 1930s. And we've got a dry lake bed that we can go race on. There's a big desert. Out here in the desert, we can climb Potosi Mountain. There's a big hill climb over there. I want to do a hill climb with Model A's only, 4-cylinder Model A cars. And we got to climb to the top of the mountain with them. So something in the future that I'm really, really interested in doing. But right now, those are a few things that I have. There's so much more history here, so much more to go over. Right now, I don't want to bore you with too many pictures of this, everything, but I do have a lot of different pictures that I'll be going through over the next, for however long I live here, finding more and more things like this. I mean, I've been, you know, asking a lot of the people, the older people in town, and, you know, Steve Fleming's been really good because he's, you know, he's the president of the Historical Society here, so he knows a lot of stuff. He knows where everything is. His family, his mom was born here and lived right here on this property in 1919, so they've been here a long time. Anyway, hope you enjoyed some of this. If you have any questions, make sure you make a comment. I want to know what you guys are, you know, what you guys think. What you want to come out and dig around and look for some gold? You want to come out and look for silver? You want to just look for artifacts laying around out here? I mean, there's so much cool stuff here. You know, there's things everywhere, and it's just a really cool place to come out and enjoy the day and look at all the old buildings and stuff. So I'm trying to preserve as much of the history as I can. I don't want any of the buildings to be tore down. Unfortunately, we've had people that come in from different states that don't understand the history of the town. They come in, they tear down an old building, and it just destroys the history. Pisses me right off. I don't even want them here. It's like, if you're gonna move into Goodsprings, preserve the history, and if you're gonna tear a building down, let me come take it down so I can take it down in pieces and put it back up, or preserve it and use it for something else. But anyway, all right, well, thanks guys, and we'll see you on the next one.